That's facebook.com/Studio One Live.
Now coming up, how to avoid, prevent, and take action against bullying.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to Studio One. Now, as recent reports news shows, tragically, bullying at schools is an all too frequent part of many children's lives.
It is indeed. So how do we spot the danger signs and what can we do to prevent it? Here with some of the answers is cross-cultural psychologist Samineh Shaheem. Samineh, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, we've been reading so much about it in the papers. We have to stop asking, what exactly is bullying? Because I know it varies in every country. How would you define it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of countries or cultures that don't even have a word for bullying. So as you can imagine, it can be very confusing, especially in a diverse society like ours. People may not be able to define it or may not be able to identify it. So really important to understand what bullying is. And you go to the heart of it, the central sort of character of bullying is when one individual is being teased or manipulated or being victimized by another person or a group of people who somehow are at a higher power distance. So they're stronger maybe in terms of their social positioning or stronger in terms of strength. So that person doesn't have an opportunity to protect themselves.
Well, this is definitely an important shift from the way bullying was perceived by the previous generation. At least back in the days, it was not considered to be such a serious offense as how it is right now. Yeah. So how important is it to spread the awareness of the seriousness of this issue in today's world?
It's incredibly important because, you know, when I'm often asked about statistics and occurrences, I think if it's one is one too many. So it really doesn't matter how often is it occurring, what are the numbers on it. Children should be in schools. Schools should be safe environments in which they're learning academically, growing socially and emotionally and psychologically. And if there's a battlefield that they have to encounter, that's not going to be good for them, not for their present nor for their future. So really, really important to identify it and to do something about it.
Well, speaking of identifying, of course, it's really important that the parents know that their children or one of their children being bullied. What are the warning signs? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, there are some common signs that children would exhibit. Some are more obvious than others. The more common signs would be, for example, if the child's attitude has suddenly changed. So this child that was previously happy, very balanced, had a sort of balanced emotional well-being, is now withdrawn, a little bit sad, goes through crying spells, doesn't want to hang out with their friends like they normally would, doesn't participate or engage within the family as they normally would. If this person now kind of isolates themselves into their room, if they're not as happy as they used to be, if, for example, they complain of stomach pain or headaches or psychosomatic symptoms, as we refer it. So they don't come out and say that they're sad or they're anxious, but they'll say, my stomach hurts, or I feel nauseous, or I have a headache and I don't want to go to school. That's a big one, you know, complaining and saying that, please, can I stay home tomorrow and I don't want to go to school.
Now, bullying is, of course, a very serious issue that can affect the psychological development of a child. But if you can break down the different forms of bullying, because there might be a lot of kids who are the bullies who say we were just teasing. I believe there's a very fine line between the word bullying and teasing. How can we recognize that fine line?
Absolutely. So, for example, the way in which we like to differentiate between teasing and bullying. Teasing is a sort of back and forth interaction that goes on. So you may say something, I say 2 things back, you say 3 things back, and then we're good. We're all laughing, or the whole group is laughing. Bullying, when it's directed, it's a one-way attack, and the other person doesn't have the faculties or the emotional or psychological immunity to be able to protect themselves. So it's a one-way attack. And when that occurs, the person feels incredibly, you know, traumatized, emotionally upset. It affects their self-esteem. It affects their confidence. They feel hopeless and helpless. They go through all kinds of emotional challenges. And not only does it affect them psychologically or socially, but it also affects their academic performance.
Absolutely.
You know, they're there to study, and then as a result of this, their grades suffer.
But what if your child is a bully? What if you find that out? How do you react? What do you do in that case?
You know, I guess the bullies get a bad rap, and of course they need to be identified and they need to be sort of retrained, if you will, or retaught the correct behavior of what's appropriate and inappropriate. But oftentimes, you know, you'll be surprised that the bully themselves have been bullied, or they are living in an environment in which they're observing very violent or aggressive type behavior. So they're modeling behavior at home that may not be appropriate. So let's say older siblings are beating on them, neighbors' kids might be bullying them, or if they see a interaction between their mother and father that's not very functional. So the child mimics and models this behavior and acts it out in school. So they too need help.
Well, Samineh, this is a very broad but very disturbing subject. We can of course go on for hours discussing about it. But if there's one simple practical advice that you can give the parents out there for those whose kids have been victims to bullying, what would that be?
Can I just finish by saying, please, it's really important for the entire community to get involved. It will not help if we only speak to the parents. And by that, I'm talking about GPs, general practitioners, psychologists, you know, the doctors, schools, faculty members, parents, neighbors, older siblings. Everybody needs to get involved. But if there's one thing that parents can do is speak to your child before they go to school. Speak to them, have this conversation with them, let them know that it's not right for anybody to treat them in that way. And if it does happen, that they should come and speak to them about it, not to suffer in silence and to keep it inside.
Definitely. Well, schools should definitely not be a battlefield, and bullying is certainly not something that can make you, it can only break you. And of course, when in doubt of any kind of bullying, definitely do approach the right authorities for it. Samineh, thank you so much for joining us. For more information on anything that we've discussed on the show right now, do log on to our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Studio One Live is the address.